Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome back to the winter campaign for Arkham Horror, the card game. Last week when we played through the Unspeakable Oath, we picked up a total of 6 experience by the time we got through the interlude, but Lily and Monterey were both attacked when they tried to escape Arkham Asylum, sustaining a physical trauma in the process. That brings Monterey up to 1 physical trauma, but Lily is up to 3. Her next trauma will likely be the end of the winter campaign. For now, we've upgraded the decks with the experience, so let's go ahead and remind everyone what our tarot reading was. So on the good side, we kept the Hierophant 5. During the first will test, each investigator performs each round. They get +1 will. On the bad side, we flipped Wheel of Fortune 10. So once each agenda, the first time any investigator reveals an Elder Sign token, cancel it and treat it as a -5 instead. So this was a situation where the tarot reading really had no good solution. It was either flip the Wheel of Fortune 5, which let us cancel our first tentacle and treat it as a 0 for each act. Yes, that is once each act, okay. And then test down -1 will, or we have this, what we're going with. I didn't want to flip the Hierophant 5 because I figured that would be a very dangerous decision. Lily might have stood a chance, but Monterey would have been in deep trouble, especially when the first will test of the round is likely to be during the Mythos Phase. Monterey already has a somewhat low sanity before we factor in his stat line for Carcosa. So bringing in -1 will and hoping Lily can cover after that sounded like a very dangerous plan, and I didn't want to take the chance. Plus, I figured I'd have better luck ducking the Elder Sign. I also want to mention our new quirk of the campaign about during the scenario, when we utter Haster's name, the investigator has to take 1 horror. As I mentioned during the upgrades video from a few days ago, which I'll link to in the description down below, I made the audio recordings I play at the start and end of each scenario at a point where I didn't have a Path to Carcosa campaign active. So I'm not going to incur any horror from when his name is spoken during the recordings. For the purposes of this rule, I'm going to consider the scenario active from when the recordings move us to setup until we start playing the recordings at the end of the scenario. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and set the scene.
Scenario 5, A Phantom of Truth. Check campaign log. If the king claimed its victims, read Intro 1. Otherwise, skip to Intro 2.
The king did not claim his victims, so we want Intro 2.
Intro 2. It has been several weeks since the events in the asylum, and you are still no closer to the truth about the King in Yellow and Carcosa. You have scoured the city for signs of the others Daniel had mentioned, the ones who are opening the path to Carcosa, but found nothing. Either the trail has gone cold, or they're no longer in Arkham. Perhaps Daniel truly was insane, and you are only following him deeper down the rabbit hole. Every night, you toss and turn as you are subjected to vivid dreams of Carcosa, its black stars, twin suns, shattered moons, and twisted spires. Continue to dream 1. Don't get lost. Intro 2.
Oh, I had it on repeat 1.
You fall through the empty abyss of Holly. Creatures of unknown and impossible origin lurk just beyond the darkness of your sight. Haster looms above you, magnificent and yet bound in his prison of madness, manipulating your torturous descent with a soul outstretched arm. Each investigator has earned the Lost Soul weakness. The Path to Carcosa number 227 does not count toward deck size. Shuffle 1 copy of this weakness into each investigator's deck. Continue to dream 2.
Alright, I will go get the Lost Soul weaknesses. I think this is probably the one peril of doing setup before the scenario. So, Lily, and oh criminy, we're gonna have a bit of a problem here. So we'll take a look first at Lost Soul itself. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to shuffle it differently for Monty because I need to go pick up some new sleeves for him. Lost Soul. It's a madness pact. Revelation, check campaign log. If you have more or equal doubt than conviction, which we don't, we'll be using the more conviction than doubt. Test Will X where X is your lore. If you fail, take 2 damage. This is probably one that I'm not going to... Where X is... Wait a minute. Where X is your lore? This is going to be a big problem. Will X where X is your lore. Lily will be up 1. Monty will be down 3 on this. So I know the way it's supposed to actually happen is you're supposed to add it during... You're supposed to draw your opening hands after setup, but I do all of this setup the night before anyway, so we'll just have to kind of work with it as best we can. Of course, it might not matter if the winter campaign ends up ending early. Give that a cut. Now, I'm going to have to sleeve it in clear because I actually had problems with this batch of sleeves from Monterey. So I'm going to try to pretend that when I see a clear sleeve, I don't know what's up there, but that's not going to be the easiest thing in the world to do, obviously. But we'll give that a shuffle and a cut. All right, and then we want to be going to Dream 2.
Dream 2. Constance takes your hand and pulls you onto the polished dance floor. Come now, don't be shy. Tonight is a night for dancing, for celebration. Check campaign log. If the king claimed its victims, continue to Dream 8. If the above is not true, if you intruded on a secret meeting, continue to Dream 3. If you slayed the monsters at the dinner party, continue to Dream 4. If none of the above are true, continue to Dream 6.
Alright, so we slayed the monsters at the dinner party, so we want Dream 4.
Dream 4.
Here we go.
Smoke and embers float upwards into the starless night sky. The screams of burning creatures fill you with a horrid sense of accomplishment. They almost sound human, you consider, but you know that isn't true. Each investigator suffers 1 mental trauma. Continue to Dream 6.
Oh, wonderful.
Dream 5. You
No.
the mirror and your reflection
Okay,
gives you...
you pause it for a second. So we need to be going to Dream 6 once I come out of this, but we just sustained another mental trauma apiece. So Lily's at 1 mental trauma in addition to her 3 physical, and now Monty is at 1 and 1. That's going to be a problem, but we want to continue to Dream 6.
Dream 6.
Here we go.
The lights of the theater dim and a spotlight shines on the stage. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, the creature exclaims. Its many tentacles reach across the stage, up into the rafters, and throughout the aisles. It tears the curtains down, and tattered red cloth falls over its bulbous form. Check campaign log. If the police are suspicious of you, continue to Dream 7. Otherwise, continue to Dream 8.
The police are not suspicious of us, so we want to go to Dream 8.
Dream 8.
Here we go.
You peer in the mirror, and the stranger peers back at you. His gaze drills into your mind. The mirror shatters. Check campaign log. If there are 3 or fewer tally marks under chasing the stranger, continue to Dream 9. If there are 4 or more tally marks under chasing the stranger, continue to Dream 10.
So we want to go to Dream 9,
9,
which is where we're
You
going.
chase the stranger through dark, chilly passageways composed of hundreds of thousands of skeletal bodies. Skulls watch as you run, their mouths rattling a mocking taunt as you pass. The stranger reaches a solid wall of bone and is grabbed by bony hands and pulled into the wall. Their mocking laughs reach an awful crescendo. Continue to Dream 13. Dream 13. Daniel's voice calls out to you. They are opening the path to Carcosa. Continue to Awakening. Awakening. You awaken from your fitful dream, sweating and gagging. This cannot go on any longer. You have only one option if you are to continue your investigation. You must find Nigel Ingram, director of the King in Yellow and architect of this madness. Only he will have the answers you seek. You pack your bags and plan your trip to Paris, the City of Lights. Check campaign log. If Jordan Perry is listed under VIPs interviewed, proceed to Jordan's information. Otherwise, skip to setup.
Okay, so we check the campaign log, and Jordan is not listed under VIPs interviewed, so we proceed straight to setup. Now, at this point, now that we've moved into setup, the scenario is active. So, from now on, when we speak the unspeakable one's name, we'll suffer one horror. If it's during an investigator's turn, that investigator will take it. Otherwise, we'll default that to the lead investigator, who will probably be Lily for the rest of the campaign due to her higher sanity value. Anyway, let's take a look at our investigator's opening hand. So Lily's I'm actually pretty happy with. So Lily will start off with a Butterfly Swords level 2. We saw this to great effect in the Unspeakable Oath last week, where it's a 3 cost to play, combat, and agility on commit. As an action fight, where you get +1 combat for this attack. After this attack, you may exhaust Butterfly Swords to fight again, plus agility for that attack. This attack deals +1 damage, and it takes both hand slots. We also have the Holy Rosary, level 2. 2 cost to play, will and agility on commit. You get +1 will, and after you succeed at a will test on a treachery, exhaust Holy Rosary to add 2 bless tokens to the chaos bag. Then we have Unexpected Courage, which is just a 2 wildcard commit. Max 1 committed per skill test. Then we have Voice of Ra, 0 cost to play, will on commit. Gain 1 resource, and then reveal 3 random tokens from the bag. For each bad symbol you reveal, gain an additional 2 resources. And last up in Lily's hand, we have Drawn to the Flame. Will and lore on commit, draw the top card of the encounter deck, then discover 2 clues at your location. Monty's starting hand. I'm not as happy with this coming in, but we do have our first look at a tarot card. Death 13. It would be a 3 cost to play, but we're getting to get the reaction effect in a minute. You get +1 lore, and when the game begins, if Death 13 is in your opening hand, put it into play, let go, and embrace a new truth. I'm also going to be mixing in some real-time thoughts as I move back and forth between on the new mats that I debuted on the channel on Wednesday. I've already got something that's kind of catching my eye a little bit in truth. But I'll talk more about that when we drop down to Monty, if we drop down to Monty's play area. Then we have a copy of Backstab, which is a 3 cost to play, combat and agility on commit. Fight using agility instead of combat and deal +2 damage on the attack. Then we have Pilfer, which is a 4 cost event to play, lore and agility on commit. Investigate using agility instead of lore, and if you succeed, discover 2 additional clues at your location. Deduction level 2, 2 lore on commit. If you succeed while investigating a location, discover 1 additional clue there, 2 additional clues instead if you succeed by 2 or more. And Swift Reflexes, 2 cost to play, 2 agility on commit. Fast to play during any investigator's turn except during an action. Immediately take an action as if it were your turn. This action doesn't count toward the number of actions you can take each turn. Next, let's take a look at our Act and Agenda decks. We'll take a look first at our agenda. Agenda 1A, the first night. As you stop off the train in Gare d'Orsay, the sun sinks below the Paris skyline. You cannot waste any time. If Nigel Ingram is somewhere in Paris, you have to find him and wring the answers from him one way or another. While you have more conviction than doubt, which we do, this agenda gains, when checking the Doom threshold, Doom on cards other than this agenda subtract from the total Doom in play instead of adding to it. We need 6 Doom to advance. So that'll be another quirk of this scenario where anything like if we were to have an Acolyte come out, for instance, I don't think it's in this scenario, but I wouldn't swear to it. If we were to have an Acolyte come out, that Doom would actually subtract from what we need to advance the agenda. Then we'll take a look at Act 1A. The Parisian Conspiracy, version 2. You pass the Church of St. Barnabé as you exit the train station and cannot help but overhear the organ playing. Is there a sermon this late in the evening? You marvel at the wild and strange chords for a moment before continuing. Paris is a big city, and you have very few leads. Objective, spend the requisite number of clues to advance. At the end of the round, if there are 3 or more doom in play, advance. So this is going to be a very different scenario. And there was one other thing I wanted to talk about, but I can't remember it now. Anyway, we'll move over to the map, and Lily and Monterey will move with us. We're over here at the map, so full disclosure on a couple of fronts. First of all, my French is really old and really hideous, so try not to laugh at me too much in the comments down below. But secondly, coming out of the setup for this scenario, I'm thinking with another trauma coming in, this is probably going to be it for the winter campaign, especially if Lily eats another trauma, but we'll see what happens there. So anyway, we'll take a look at our starting location. Gare d'Orsay. Built in 1900, this train station was the first urban station in the world to use only electric trains. And we'll flip this over to find. Shroud of 4, 2 clues. As an action, spend 1 resource, move to any rail location. You'd expect the station to be bustling, but it is eerily abandoned save for a few passengers who wander the station in slow, meandering steps. Okay, so we'll get the 2 clues for that. And then once again, we've got the... Put those down there to mark our starting locations. I mostly use that to help me keep track for Monterey Jack's special ability. But anyway, with that being said, I think we're about ready to get this scenario started. So let's drop... So as lead investigator, we'll drop down to Lily and we'll drop into her play area. Here's Lily in her play area. Now, as you may recall, I'm using the mats that I picked up from Board Game Solutions and boxed them on the channel on Wednesday. Now that I'm using them, I do still like the use of the spot where I don't think it was necessarily intended for the Team Covenant dashboard. It just, the investigator slot that they have on there, I'll lift that for a second. Actually, this kind of fits that really nicely. I don't know if I'm going to call it a problem, but one thing that I might be watching out for is these 3 extra slots down here. It's not a big problem with Lily, and it might not be over the course of the campaign, but it is a problem with Monterey right now. If we get those, if we fill those up very quickly with like permanents and stuff like that, we're going to be spilling off of this mat in a hurry. So I don't know what the fix to that is going to be. I'll be able to put stuff around here for the time being, but for somebody like what a new Lola is going to look like, for instance, I could potentially see that lack of spots being a problem, especially with how I'm envisioning building the next time I play Lola. But I'm getting off track here because we've got an actual campaign to play through. So for Lily's first 2 actions, we're actually going to end up spending all 5 resources to play the 2 items in her hand so she can get well set up to go. So her first action will be playing out the butterfly swords. In a practiced grip, they are an extension of the empty hand, but both her hand slots are full right now. The card spaces also might be a touch. I don't know if they were made with, I don't know if this was made with having unsleeved cards in mind, but I sleeve everything, so that might be something to kind of keep an eye on. But action 2 will go into playing the Holy Rosary, level 2 out. So now Lily is at a base will of 4. And then I think action 3, Lily will get drawn to the flame. So we'll get that going right away, which means we can get those 2 clues right away. And then Lily draws from the encounter deck a Stealthy Bayaki. Oh joy. 5 fight, 2 combat, or 2 health, 3 evade value. Hunter. While Stealthy Bayaki is exhausted, it gets -3 fight. If you can hear the beating of its leathery wings, it's already too late. 2 damage and a horror on attack. But we do get the 2 clues. Anyway, that was all three of Lily's actions. That will do it for Lily. Monterey Jack's first turn will take us down to his play area. Here's Monterey Jack. Now, before I jump into his turn, here's what I was talking about when you get these 3 extra slots down here full. You're going to end up having you're probably going to end up having problems with these mats, but again, I'm not quite sure how we'd fix that, short of maybe ending up having to order another pair of these to accommodate for extra slots. Like, for instance, if a Mystic starts taking a bunch of Sign Magics and they get a bunch of extra Arcane slots, or Guardian with Bandolier, having extra hand slots that are for weapons, or even for Daisy, especially with her, well, her tote bag might not be that big a problem, but again, with the millions of permanents, that might be a problem. But anyway, action 1 from Monty, he is going to engage the Stealthy Bayaki off Lily because she cannot start taking 2 damage hits. Then action 2, he's going to try to evade it up 2. Rune cannot be good. Rune is -3. Cancel the effects and icons of each skill card committed to this test, so that's a fail. And then action 3 will be to try to evade it again. So we're still up 2. +1 will evade the Stealthy Bayaki, so that's wonderful there. Anyway, that will do it for Monty's turn. That will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, we obviously just exhausted the Stealthy Bayaki, so we'll go ahead and start resetting everything here. We'll bring the Stealthy Bayaki back to Monty because I've got a plan to deal with it next turn. We'll reset the action tokens, and then we'll move back up top for the Upkeep phase. Lily will gain 1 resource and go up to 1. Monty will gain 1 and go up to 6. Lily will draw. Blessed Blade, which we probably aren't going to need. We might need it as a commit, but I'm getting ahead of myself. 3 cost to play, combat on commit. As an action, if Blessed Blade is ready, fight. You get +1 combat for this attack. If a Bless or Elder Sign token is revealed during this attack deals +1 damage. Before revealing Chaos tokens for this attack, you may exhaust Blessed Blade to add 1 Bless token to the bag. And then Monty will draw. Slip Away. 2 cost to play, Lore and Agility on commit. Evade plus Lore. If you succeed by 2 or more and the evaded enemy is non-elite, it doesn't ready during the Upkeep phase. Alright, Mythos Phase, we got our first Doom on the agenda. Bringing us up to 1. -0 because there's no other Doom in play right now. Lily will draw. Well, 2/3/2, Swift Bayaki. Pray lowest remaining sanity, so it will be engaging. So actually, it will be engaging to Lily, but it would be looking for Monty if we can break engagement. Forced. When Swift Bayaki would move via its Hunter keyword, when it would move via its Hunter keyword, instead move it 1 location at a time until it enters its prey's location. If it is moved more than once more than 1 location by this effect, it does not attack this phase. 1 and 1 on attack. So we'll probably need to try to take that out. Monty draws. Frozen in Fear. Oh, wonderful. Put Frozen in Fear in play in your threat area. The first time you perform one of the following actions, move, fight, or evade each round, it costs 1 additional action. Forced. At the end of your turn, test Will 3. If you succeed, discard Frozen in Fear. Oh, that's going to be fun. Right, so... Okay, so now we're in a very tough situation, but I think for the investigation phase, Monty will be our first player and will move down to his play area. Actions 1 and 2, because of Frozen in Fear, are going to be to try to evade the stealthy Bayaki. He's up 2. Let me look at the hand, actually, because we have... Because I saw we do have a minus... actually, I've got a better plan. So I'm going to spend 3 resources instead. And... how do I want to do this? We're actually going to try to backstab the Bayaki on Lily. But I've got a little bit of a plan here. So... we're using agility instead of combat and dealing +2 damage. We're up 3. Oh, this is actually a bad play. So I think what we're going to do is we're actually going to engage it first. And then the last 2 actions will be to backstab it. I just realized if I hit Lily, I'm basically inviting the scenario to be over super quick. And I don't really want to do that with Lily already having 3 physical trauma. So we're up 3 trying to take out the Swift Bayaki. Oh, this is one time where I'm not happy to see the Elder Sign, because you remember from flipping Wheel of Fortune 10, the Elder Sign is actually a -5. So Monty fails, and then he takes 1 and 1. So we'll flip those over. That kind of backfired on me. But on a better note, we have used that for the agenda. So that is no longer active, and the Elder Sign is back to normal now. Now Monty, at the end of his turn, has to test Frozen in Fear. And does he have anything for Will to commit? He does not. Lily, I think, is going to have to give him an unexpected courage to try to get rid of that Frozen in Fear. Unfortunately, this is still not a great place for him to be in. Well, during the first Will test an investigator performs each round, they get +1 Will. Shockingly, we didn't test during the Mythos phase, so Monty's actually +1 here, so he's got 2 unexpected courage. Actually, shockingly, puts him up 1. A 0 means he does get rid of Frozen in Fear, so that's very helpful. Alright. Now, that will do it for Monty. We'll go ahead and flip his mini over. Unfortunately, he didn't move from Gare d'Orsay because we got beset by Bayaki almost immediately. But we'll move over to Lily. Action 1 for Lily is going to be to take the Bayaki back off of Monty. I was planning on Monty taking that out. Then we pulled the -5 Elder Sign. Action 2 will use her Butterfly Swords. So she's fighting at 4, 5, 6 to 2. She's up 4 for this attack. Skull is -X, where X is the amount of doom in play to a max of 5. So Lily passes, which means she does 1 damage to the Swift Bayaki. And then she's going to exhaust the Butterfly Swords to fight again. Normally I turn these sideways, but there's not enough room on here on this mat to be able to do that. So I'm just going to flip it over. But anyway, we're plus agility this time, so we're at 7 to 2. This time we're up 5. I'm not going to say anything about our token situation, because that's basically inviting it to jinx us. -2 takes out the Swift Bayaki. So we probably avoided catastrophe there. And then action 3, Lily will draw a card, so Lily will draw. Oh, wonderful. The Man in the Pallid Mask. 4/3/4, spawn location farthest from all investigators, aloof. As an action, investigate. Your location gets +2 shroud for this investigation. If you succeed, instead of discovering clues, discard the Man in the Pallid Mask. Indeed, it's time. We have all laid aside disguise but you. Robert W. Chambers, the Mask, the King in Yellow. We're going to have to move over to the map and see where we're placing him. Based on my hand-wavy math, the farthest location away from all investigators seems to be the Père Lachaise Cemetery. So I think that's where we're going to put the Man in the Pallid Mask. Let's see. So here's where we are. 1, 2, 3, 4 locations away. 1, 2, 3, 4 locations away. I think any way we try to get to him. 1, 2... Yeah, I think any way we try to get to that location... no, that's not a connection. Where's this connecting arrow for? Might have had... Oh! I think that's that one that got rotated and moved slightly. But anyway, so that's where I have to put the Man in the Pallid Mask. But that will do it for Lily's turn, so we'll flip over her mini while we're right here. In the enemy phase, Monty takes another 2 and 1. He cannot take much more abuse from the stealthy Bayaki, but that will do it for the enemy phase. So we'll start getting everything ready. Flip over the action tokens as well. And then we'll move back up top for the Upkeep phase. We're back up top for the Upkeep phase. Monty will gain 1 resource and go to 4. Lily will gain 1 and go to 2. Lily will draw. Meditative Trance. For each of your arcane slots that's filled, either heal 1 damage or 1 horror. And Monty will draw. Lucky Cigarette Case. After you succeeded a skill test by 2 or more, exhaust Lucky Cigarette Case to draw 1 card. Probably not going to be something we're going to get to, but nevertheless. Now we're into the Mythos phase. We got our second Doom on the agenda. Lily draws. Twisted to his will. If there's no Doom in play, and other than on the agenda there's not, so this will gain Surge. So Lily surges into. Hunted by Bayaki. Oh, geez. Revelation, test Agility 6. If you fail, reveal the top X cards of the encounter deck, where X is the amount you fail by. If at least 1 Bayaki enemy is revealed by this effect, choose and draw 1 of them. If at least 1 Omen Treachery is revealed by this effect, take 1 Horror. Shuffle the encounter deck. So basically, this is going to, for Lily, this is going to mean anywhere between draw 3 and 6, reveal the top 3 and 6 cards of the encounter deck. Actually, since we're probably not going to use it this scenario, I think Monty's going to commit Swift Reflexes to get her down 1. And we'll see if that gives him any help, if that gives her any help. We might have needed that for trying to evade the Bayaki, but we're trying to evade the stealthy Bayaki, but I think we're starting to go completely sideways on it for that stealthy Bayaki right there. +1 actually shockingly means we pass, so we don't have to reveal anything from the encounter deck, which is very helpful. Thank you, Monty. And as your prize, you get another Swift Bayaki that we just saw Lily take out. So, yeah, that's going to be a big problem. But anyway, that will do it for the Mythos phase. Investigation phase now. We need to see if Monty can get some of these Bayaki off of him. So we'll start off with Monty, and we'll drop into his play area. Let's see if Monty can give the Swift Bayaki the slip first for action 1. We'll try to evade that up 3. skull is minus X, where X is the amount of doom in play, max 5, which right now is a 0. So he evades the swift Bayaki. Now for the stealthy Bayaki. So for action 2, we're going to spend we're going to spend his 4 resources to try to slip away from it. So we're evading plus lore. And if we succeed by 2 or more and the evaded enemy is non-elite, it won't ready during this coming upkeep phase. So we are up 5 plus 5 actually is 10, so we are up 7. Which means even the Elder Sign minus 5 wouldn't screw us. A 0 means we slip away from the stealthy Bayaki. So he will not be... So he won't ready during the upkeep phase. And then action 3... I think Monty will draw a card. So Monty will draw... Tennessee Sour Mash. 3 cost to play, will on commit. Uses 2 supplies. As an action, exhaust Tennessee Sour Mash and spend a supply. You get plus 2 will for a skill test on a treachery card. As an action, discard Tennessee Sour Mash, fight. You get plus 3 combat for this attack. Anyway, that was the last of Monty's actions. So that will do it for Monty. Lily's turn will take us over to the map. While the stealthy Bayaki is exhausted from slip away, Lily's going to try to take it out. So action 1, she's going to fight using the butterfly swords. But as we remember, while stealthy Bayaki is exhausted, it gets minus 3 fight. So Lily is actually doing a 6 to a 2. So she's up 4. Minus 2 gives us a damage. You know what? That's a May attack, so we're not going to do that. Action 2, we'll run that fight back. So once again, she's up 4. A 0 takes out the stealthy Bayaki. And then you may exhaust butterfly swords to fight again. So for action 3, we'll actually run the butterfly swords back and we'll turn our attention now to the swift Bayaki. So once again, we're up 4. Minus 1 puts a damage on it. And then this time we'll exhaust the butterfly swords to fight again. So 4, 5, 8. To 2, we're up 6 this time, trying to take this Bayaki out and finally get moving. A 0 takes out the swift Bayaki. So very nicely done there, Lily. That will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, Lily made shish kebab, Bayaki shish kebab, so we have nothing going on there. Now we'll go ahead and start re-readying everything. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Lily will gain 1 resource and go to 3. Monty will gain 1 resource and go to 1. Oh, go to 1, not 3, I wish. Lily will draw. Vicious Blow. This would have been very handy to have a few minutes ago. But it's a level 2. 2 combat on commit. If you succeed during an attack, this attack deals plus 1 damage. Plus 2 instead if you succeed by 2 or more. And then Monty draws. Sneak By, 2 agility on commit, Evade when this action begins. Gain 2 resources. Anyway, Mythos Phase. We got our third Doom on the agenda. If there are 3 or more Doom in play, advance. So we wouldn't advance that yet. Well, I'll double check on that. Anyway, Lily draws. We cannot stop getting Bayakis here. Screeching Bayaki this time. Prey lowest remaining sanity, but it'll be engaging Lily. 3 combat, 4 health, 3 evade. Prey lowest remaining sanity. Hunter, while engaged with an investigator with remaining sanity 4 or fewer, Screaming Bayaki gets +1 fight and +1 evade. Okay, and then Monty draws. Twin Sons. Revelation will test lore 4. If you fail, you must either remove 1 Doom from the current agenda or take 1 horror for each point you failed by. So right now we're base up 1. Does Monty have any lore he wants to commit? He will commit Pilfer to this and go up 2. Is there anything Lily can do to help him out? Let me look at her hand. There. She can give him Meditative Trance to put him up 3. Skull I'm ruling as -0 for now because there's no other Doom in play. So for now we've ducked Twin Sons. But I do want to look up a ruling real quick on Doom on the agenda, if that's considered in play or not. I don't think it is, but I want to make sure, so I'll be right back. Okay, we're back. I had to take a small break from recording just to check a couple things. So anyway, it turns out that Doom on the agenda is considered to be in play. I wasn't sure about that. So what that means is in the immediate concern for our twins, we have 2 things in the immediate concern that we'll get to. First up, Twin Sons. So when I pulled the skull on that test, that should actually be a -3. So Monty still passed that because he was up 3, but just something I need to be aware of. Also, when Lily drew her Twisted to His Will card last scenario, that actually should have been her last round, actually. That should have been her card for the round. She shouldn't have surged into anything else. Which I think she surged into Hunted by Bayaki, which would have been Monty's card anyway, but... So I should not have taken the surge there. But anyway, the reason that Doom's also relevant for another immediate concern is because we're advancing. So... this advances because we have 3 Doom in play on the agenda. If you spent clues to advance, which we didn't, otherwise, you nearly bump into a tall man. His coat and hat as black as his skin is pale. He gives you a look of hatred and as intense and as deadly as you have ever seen. You recoil at the mere sight of him, and shadows gather around his feet as he marches toward you. Each investigator takes 2 horror. Oh, joy. So that brings Lily up to 3. And Monty up to 5. Yikes. That's a problem. Right. So we spawn the set-aside organist enemy at the lead investigator's location. Oh, joy. Hopeless, I defied him side face up. Advance to Act 2A, Stalked by Shadows. Okay, so we spawn Hopeless, I defied him. Yikes. Okay, so we got to take a look at him. Alright, so the organist. Hopeless, I defied him, and he'll be engaged with Lily. Yuck. Hunter cannot be damaged. Forced. After the organist moves from the Hunter keyword, if it is unengaged, resolve its Hunter keyword again. The organist cannot attack this phase. Limit once per round. The point from which it would strike was his infernal eyes. Robert W. Chambers in the Court of the Dragon, the King in Yellow, and deals 3 horror on attack. We need to get away from these guys, or this is going to be the end of the winter campaign right here. So Stalked by Shadows, that's the one we want. Alright. Stalked by Shadows. I knew that every time I met him brought him nearer to the accomplishment of his purpose and my fate. And still I tried to save myself. Robert W. Chambers, In the Court of the Dragon, The King in Yellow. As a fast action, spend one per investigator clues as a group, so 2. Either place 1 doom on the current agenda or automatically evade the organist. Group limit once per round. Objective, we need to survive 3 nights. Don't advance until we're instructed. Oh boy. Well then. Yeah. We got kind of jumped on by enemies here right from the word go. So... yeah, I think we're in the investigation phase. I think we'll jump down to Lily and we'll start after I remember to unexhaust her butterfly swords. We'll start off in her play area. Job 1 for Lily, well, actually it's probably like Job 1 and Job 1A. Kill that, evade that. So, for Action 1 for Lily, she's actually going to use her Discipline? That's actually not a terrible idea, I don't think. Because I definitely want to make sure I hit that Baya key. So yeah, I think Action 1, she will use her Discipline, so she'll get +5 skill value for the next skill test she performs this turn. After that skill test ends, flip this asset over. Fortunately, this action doesn't provoke attacks of opportunity because she'd just be dead on the spot if it did. So, that was Action 1. Action 2, we'll use the Butterfly Swords to fight. So we're +1 combat. So we're actually at 4, 5, 6, plus 5 is 11. And we'll commit Vicious Blow level 2 to go up a bunch. So 4, 5, 6, 11, 12, 13. She's up 10, trying to do 3 damage. -1 does 3 damage. It also will flip the Discipline over. So after the round ends, if you performed no skill tests this round, flip this asset over to its unbroken side. And then we will exhaust the Butterfly Swords to fight again. So this time we're at 7 to 3. We're still up 4. -2 takes out the Screeching Bayaki, so that's victory points. But I don't think that's going to matter. Then as a fast action, we're going to spend Lily's 2 clues to automatically evade the Organist. We need to get away from this guy. Then Action 3, along with Monty's turn most likely, will take us over to the map. Action 3, Lily's actually going to spend 1 resource to move to any rail location, so she's going to end up at Le Marais. Like I said, I probably butchered the pronunciation of that, but it is a rail location, so we get to move over there. Mostly I just want to get far away from the Organist. So, this historic district has recently become less aristocratic, but the old architectural masterwork remains. And then this will flip over into Shroud of 1, 2 clues. Forced, after you enter Le Marais, for the remainder of the round, you cannot leave Le Marais. Throughout this region, you cannot shake the feeling that you are being watched. Something along the rooftops ducks just out of sight each time you peer upward. So we'll get the 2 clues there. And then that was Lily's last action anyway, so she won't be leaving. Monty's first action will be to spend his resource, and we'll move him to Notre Dame. Once again, I want to try to get away from the organist. So we'll take a look. The most famous cathedral in all of Paris, and one of the finest examples of Gothic architecture in the world, Notre Dame de Paris, Our Lady of Paris, is an icon of the city. Light shines out from its stained glass windows, and you can hear a pipe organ inside blaring a bizarre, chaotic melody. This flips over to Shroud of 3 2 clues. Each enemy at Notre Dame gets -1 fight and +1 evade. Action test will 6. If you succeed, either place 1 doom on the current agenda or remove 1 doom from the current agenda. Group limit once per game. The only way Monty's passing a will 6 test is in his dreams. So that was action 1. Action 2, what we can do, though, that's going to be somewhat useful, is we'll try to get those clues off the location, and we'll use a deduction to try to do it. So that'll be 5, 7 to 3, he's up 4. -2 gets him both clues, because we only have to pass by 2 or more. So we get all the clues on the location. Then that will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, we managed to take out that screaming Bayaki, and we evaded the organist. So we got fortunate there. But before we go into the upkeep phase, I did almost forget. Since we finally got Monty moving, he gets to gain a resource and draw a card at the end of his turn. So he will draw. Quick thinking. Skill card, question mark on commit. If this test is successful by 2 or more, you may immediately take an action as if it were your turn. This action does not count toward the number of actions you can take each turn. Okay, so now that we've got that straight, we'll go ahead and ready the organist. We'll reset the action tokens as well. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Lily will gain 1 resource and go to 3. I'll also remember to unexhaust the butterfly swords. Monty will gain 1 resource and go to 2. Lily will draw. Another meditative trance, which is basically useless. And then Monty will draw. Another Pilfer, which lets him investigate using agility instead of lore, and if he succeeds, discover 2 additional clues. I'll go ahead and move our starting tokens, our starting locations. Mythos Phase, doom on the agenda goes up to 4. Lily draws. The yellow sign. Revelation test will 4. If you fail, take 2 horror and search your deck for a madness weakness. Draw that card and shuffle your deck. They came to me slowly as if I had forgotten them, and at last I could make some sense out of the sounds. It was this. Have you found the yellow sign? Robert W. Chambers, The Yellow Sign. Oh joy. So, right now we are even. Lily's alone, so she can't get any help. We'll commit Meditative Trance to put her up 1, and I guess we'll have to use Voice of Ra to get her up 2. -1 means we succeed. So that'll also let me exhaust Holy Rosary. I don't like the idea of flipping it over. I'm gonna have to have a think about this throughout the scenario, but here there's enough room to turn it sideways so I can add 2 bless tokens to the chaos bag. That actually was a will test too, wasn't it? So actually that's how we got to even, so never mind. So there are the 2 blessed tokens going in. Actually, no, we were up. We were even from this. Hierophant put her up 1, so up 2, up 3, which means -1 still has her passed by 2. So never mind, we got all that figured out. And then Monty draws Peril. You must either choose one, spend 1 clue, or take 2 damage. A shadowy figure follows you in the rain. When you look at it, your head pounds in agony and your vision blurs. Unfortunately, we'll have to spend a clue. So, yeah. Because I don't want to start taking damage willy-nilly at this point. We're in a pretty bad place at this point. So that will do it for the Mythos Phase. Investigation Phase next. So I think we'll probably send Lily revealing locations, and to do that we'll send her over to the map. Action 1 for Lily will be to investigate, so we're up... Actually, investigating is probably a bad plan. That's probably more Monty's department. So I think for Action 1, we are going to stick to the plan and get her moving. So we'll move her up to Canal Saint-Martin. This underground canal connects the river Seine to the Canal de l'Ourcq. An old cracked staircase leads down to the canal's entrance, and we find, on the other side... Alright, Shroud of 4, 2 clues. As a reaction, after you evade an enemy at Canal Saint-Martin, move that enemy to a connecting location, limit once per round, victory 2. Okay. So that was action 1 for Lily. Action 2 will be to draw a card. So Lily will draw. Read the signs. 2 cost to play, lore, and will on commit. Investigate plus will. You may ignore any effect on or keyword on your location which would be triggered during this investigation. If you succeed, discover 1 additional clue. That was action 2. Action 3 will be to move into the cemetery. I think that's probably an easier thing to do. The largest cemetery in Paris and its first garden cemetery. Père Lachaise is as beautiful as it is haunting. This flips into Shroud of 1, 4 clues. Forced, after you successfully investigate Père Lachaise cemetery, you cannot leave Père Lachaise cemetery until the end of the round. Paths of stone wind through rows of graves and countless mausoleums. The dense, twisting cemetery has you trapped in a state of melancholy, surrounded by death on all sides. And we had to put the man in the pallid mask there. That is gross, but that couldn't be helped. Anyway, 4 clues going on that location. Then that will do it for Lily. Monty is going to have to take the long way around, but I definitely want to get him where I can get some clues. So action 1, we'll go ahead and move him over to Gardens of Luxembourg. Yeah, I can actually pronounce that. The Gardens of Luxembourg Palace contain hundreds of scattered statues, monuments, and fountains. It would make for a relaxing walk if you hadn't come here to escape the winged creatures that screech and soar in the dark sky overhead. And this flips into Shroud of 3, 2 clues, victory 1. While a Bayaki enemy is moving, if there's an investigator at Gardens of Luxembourg, that enemy's location is considered to be connected to Gardens of Luxembourg. We're not staying here because we remember the organist can't attack if it moves twice, so I'm going to stay at least 2 locations away. Action 2 will be to move up to Montmartre. There we'll find Shroud of 2, 2 clues. As an action, spend 1 resource, add 1 supply or ammo token to a card you control, limit once per round. Cold rain pelts the streets. Every alleyway you pass is another holding place for something sinister. So 2 clues there. Then action 3. I wonder if I let him come to us, actually. That actually might not be a terrible idea. So yeah, I think we'll sit tight for him, and we'll gain a resource. So anyway, that will do it for Monty. At the end of his turn, since we started 2 locations away, we'll gain a resource, go to 4, and then he'll draw Pathfinder. 3 cost to play, agility on commit. As a fast action, during your turn, if you're not engaged with any enemies, exhaust Pathfinder, move to a connecting location. Anyway, that will do it for Monty. That'll do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the organist will move twice. So he'll move to the Gardens of Luxembourg, and then because he's unengaged, after moving from the Hunter keyword, he'll move again, engaging with Monty. Fortunately, he won't attack this round, so that's somewhat of a relief. But anyway, we'll go ahead and start getting everything ready here. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. We're back up top for the upkeep phase. Monty will gain 1 resource and go to 5. Lily will gain 1 resource and go to 4. Lily will draw Rite of Seeking. 4 cost to play. Lore on commit. Uses 3 charges. As an action, spend a charge to investigate. Investigate using will instead of lore. If you succeed, discover 1 additional clue at your location. If you pull a bad symbol during this test, after this test resolves, lose all remaining actions and immediately end your turn. Oop. Monty will draw Lockpicks. As an action, he can exhaust lockpicks to investigate, plus agility, but if he doesn't succeed by at least 2, he discards it. Right, so Mythos Phase will bring our 5th Doom onto the agenda. Lily will draw Oh joy, Hunting Shadow. We saw this earlier, and Lily doesn't have any clues, so she has to take 2 damage. Which is very unfortunate. Monty draws Hunted by Bayaki. Revelation test will 6. If you, or not will, agility 6. If you fail, reveal the top X cards of the encounter deck, where X is the amount you failed by. If at least 1 Bayaki enemy is revealed by this effect, choose and draw 1 of them. If at least 1 Omen Treachery is revealed by this effect, take 1 Horror. Shuffle the encounter deck. Uh-oh. Okay, so right now we're down 1. I'm going to commit... boy. I'm going to commit Sneak By to go up 1. Pilfer to go up 2, and Quick Thinking to go up 3. Here's the problem. If I don't pass this, if I don't pass this test, and the next, and one of the cards is an Omen, Monty is just going to be defeated by Sanity, which is going to leave Lily, which is probably going to be the Wrath of the Winter campaign, honestly. So we're up 3. -2 means he passes, but he doesn't get the action from Quick Thinking. So, right. Okay, so that will do it for the Mythos phase. Now we're in the investigation phase. And I think Monty is going to start us off. If he can't get out of the... If he can't evade this, if he can't evade the Organist, he's going to be defeated by Sanity. And Lily's going to be in all kinds of trouble. Probably not too long for this world. So, with that, let's drop down to Monty at his play area. If Monty doesn't get away from the Organist right here, he's going to be defeated by Sanity. So, we're going to try to evade for action 1 up 2. -2 gets him away from the Organist, thankfully. And then actions 2 and 3 will take us over to the map. Action 2 will move Monty up to the Canal Saint-Martin. And then Action 3 will actually spend 3 resources and play out as Pathfinder. During your turn, if you're not engaged with any enemies, exhaust Pathfinder, move to a connecting location. Which I will leave unexhausted for the time being. You started down here, Lily's over here. So Monty will gain 1 resource and go to 3 for his end of turn ability. That will do it for Monty. Lily, for action 1, she's going to try to investigate to defeat the man in the pallid mask. So Shroud goes up to 3, which means Lily's down 1. I'll commit Rite of Seeking to get her to even, and we'll leave read the signs for now. So Rite of Seeking, which should get Lily to even. Skull we now know is -5, so that's definitely a fail. Action 2, I think we're going to engage the man in the pallid mask. We're going to try to take him out by force. Then Action 3 leaves the butterfly swords. So this time, so we're at 4, 5, we're only up 1. Tentacle touched. I can't even pretend I'm surprised about that. Then Action 3, we will try it again with the butterfly swords. So still up 1. Actually, yeah, we're up 1. Bless is up 3, but we keep drawing. Zero, so we pass. We put 1 damage. Oop, the Bless token should come out, not go back in. 0 goes in, which will pass that. And then we'll exhaust the butterfly swords. Actually, that might work a little better. If it's a double-handed, just put it there. Never mind. Okay, so now we're exhausting the butterfly swords to attack again, plus agility, so we're up 3. Rune is -3 and cancel the effects and icons of each skill card committed to this test. So we do actually pass. We defeat the man in the pallid mask, which gives us our... Where did I put my pen? Here it is. Our 3rd tally mark under Chasing a Stranger. But anyway, that will do it for the for Lily. That will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, our only enemy right now is the organist, but he's exhausted, so we'll ready everything. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Lily will gain 1 resource and go to 5. Monty will gain 1 resource and go to 4. Lily will draw. Eye of Chaos, similar to Rite of Seeking in that we investigate using will instead of lore. Discover 1 additional clue if you succeed at this location. If a curse token is revealed, you may either discover a clue at a connecting location or place a charge on Eye of Chaos. Monty draws. Another deduction level 2, which we used earlier in the scenario, but I'm getting ahead of myself there. Mythos Phase, we are advancing the agenda. Alright, daybreak. Birds start to chirp eagerly. An orange tint slowly spreads across the sky as the creatures of the night shrink back into the darkness. You spend most of the day resting, and the daylight passes quickly with very little to show for it. Before you are able to fully recover from the previous night's events, It is evening once more. Each investigator disengages from each enemy engaged with him or her and may move to a connecting location. Move the organist one location away from the nearest investigator to a location with no investigators if possible. So I will move the organist to the Opera Garnier, and I'll point that out when we move over to the map. Our new agenda. Agenda 2A, the second night. The city stirs as cold shadows embrace the streets. There is danger all around you. Danger that you cannot escape. Danger that will follow you to the ends of the earth. When will this waking nightmare end? Well, you have more conviction than doubt, yada yada yada. We have the same text we had before. Alright, so now for the encounter cards, Lily draws another Screeching Bayaki. Oh, wonderful. And then Monty draws a Stealthy Bayaki. Wonderful. He's got to get away from that, or else the scenario is just... we're not going to be long for this scenario anyway, most likely. But anyway, that will do it for the Mythos phase. We have Bayakis once again. So we'll move into the investigation phase, and... we are just... I don't think there's a good way out here, but we'll try it. With 4 sanity or fewer, so that's actually got +1 fight and +1 evade. So the Screeching Bayaki on Lily right now is a 4/4/4. But I guess we'll have to start with Lily, see if we can take out that Bayaki. So let's move down to Lily's play area. Now that we've advanced the agenda as well, the first Elder sign is once again -5. So action 1 will use the Butterfly Swords to attack the Bayaki. We are up 1. Skull is now a 0 because there's no Doom in play. So we do a damage to it. But I'm not going to exhaust the Butterfly Swords yet. Action 2 will run the attack back with the Butterfly Swords. -2 fails. Then action 3 will try it again. And again we're up 1. 0 does another damage, and then we'll exhaust the Butterfly Swords to add agility to this next attack. So we are up 3. -1 takes out the Screeching Bayaki as well and gives us another victory point. Anyway, that will do it for Lily. Monty's turn will actually start in his play area. Once again, we find Monty in the same bind that he was in with the organist last round. So action 1, he'll try to evade the Stealthy Bayaki up 2. -2 evades the Stealthy Bayaki, which also, from the location he's at, will let me move that to a connecting location. So I'll move it to Montmartre, try to get it away from us. And then we'll Pathfinder over to the map. Pathfinder will send us over to join Lily in the cemetery. Then action 2 will investigate up 4. Actually, action 2 will spend... Actually, no. We will just investigate and we'll commit deduction. So that'll put us up 6, trying to get 3 clues. Let's succeed by at least 2 to get 3 clues. A 0 gets him 3 clues, also means he can't leave this round, but he wasn't planning to. Then action 3, he'll run the investigate back. A regular investigate should do fine, so he's up 4. -2 gets him the last clue on the location, so that'll be another victory point. That will also do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the organist moves here and then moves again from its hunter keyword. And the stealthy Bayaki was exhausted, so we'll go ahead and ready all of this. And then we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Lily will gain 1 resource and go to 6. Monty will gain 1 and go to 5. Lily will draw. Tetsuo Mori, we haven't seen him for a while. Too noble for his own good. 3 cost to play, lore on commit. Tetsuo Mori may be assigned damage and or horror dealt to other investigators at your location. As a fast action when Tetsuo is defeated, choose an investigator at your location. That investigator searches either their discard pile or the top 9 cards of their deck for an item asset and adds it to their hand. Shuffle the deck if you search it, 2 and 2 on soak. Monty draws. Lost Soul, which is a madness weakness, so Lily would have had to take it. Revelation, check campaign log. If you have more or equal doubt than conviction, but we have more conviction than doubt. So we test Will X, where X is your lore. If you fail, take 2 damage. So his Will X, which is his lore is 4 and he's down 3. Oh, wonderful. So we'll have to commit Tennessee Sour Mash, Lucky Cigarette Case to get him down 1. And Lily has to give him Read the Signs to get him to even. Didn't mean to jar the camera there. +1 gets him past all of that, so that's fortunate. Right. Unfortunately, that is not our biggest problem right now. We are into the Mythos phase where we get to put the first Doom up on the agenda. Lily draws. Frozen in Fear. We saw this earlier and it didn't really do give Monty too many problems. Speaking of Monty, he will draw. Hunting Shadow. He has to either spend a clue or take 2 damage. I think he's going to spend the clue. Alright, and then coming out of then as a fast action, an open player window, we'll go ahead and spend the 2 clues from Monty and automatically evade the organist. So now we'll be able to leave that location. Probably have to take the long way around, I think, but yeah. Anyway, that will do it for the Mythos phase. We're into the investigation phase next. Our first investigator will be Monty, and we'll start at the map, actually. In an open player window before Monty's first action, he'll Pathfinder over to Canal Saint Martin. Action 1, we'll move down to Montmartre, make friends with the stealthy Bayaki. Action 2, we're going to try to evade it. Where did I put the bag? So we're up 2. Yeah, up 2. -1 evades it. And then action 3 will move back up to Canal Saint Martin. Then because he ended 1 location away, Monty will draw a card, so he will draw. Eureka. Will, lore, agility on commit. If this skill test is successful, the investigator performing this test searches the top 3 cards of his or her deck for a card. draws it, and shuffles his or her deck. Alright. Lily's turn. It's going to be actions 1 and 2 because she's frozen in fear, moving up to Monty. And action 3, she'll draw a card, so she'll draw. Ward of Protection. 1 cost to play, question mark on commit. Fast, play when you draw a non-weakness treachery card. Cancel that card's revelation effect, then take 1 horror. That's the last of Lily's actions. Unfortunately, she does have to take a skill test with Frozen and Fierce. She's up 1. Do we have anything for Will we can give her? Monty will give her Eureka to put her up 2. And that's the best we can do, so up 2. Zero gets rid of Frozen in Fear, and it lets Lily search the top 3 cards of her deck for a card. So 1, 2, 3. First up we find another Eye of Chaos, which we probably don't need right now. Then Sixth Sense, investigate using Will instead of Lore. If you pull a bad symbol except a tentacle, you may choose a revealed location connected. You're investigating there and can use either Shroud value or another Sixth Sense. So I guess we'll take a Sixth Sense here. Alright, so that will do it for the investigation phase. We'll go ahead and flip over Lily's mini. Enemy phase, no enemies, no hunter enemies active right now. So we'll go ahead and start re-readying everything. I may have put us into a very bad situation, but I think we're in a bad situation any way we look at it. So with that, we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. Lily will gain 1 resource, go to 7. Monty will gain 1 resource and go to 6. Lily will draw. Another Read the Signs, which we had to use on a commit earlier. Monty will draw. Another copy of Lockpicks, which we have 2 of in the hand right now. Anyway, Mythos Phase, we got our second Doom on the agenda. Then Lily draws. Marked by the sign, oh boy. Peril. Revelation, test Will 2. If you fail, take 2 horror. If the man in the pallid mask is in play, horror dealt by this effect is considered direct, and this test has +2 difficulty. He is not, and Lily is up 2. And now I'm starting to see one of the problems with Disciplined Prescience of Fate for Lily. Because if you take a test during the Mythos phase, that requires the entire round. So it's hard to flip that back over. Skull is a -2, so we pass because that dropped us to even. And then Monty draws. Torturous Chords. Test Will 5. If you fail, put Torturous Chords into play in your threat area with 1 resource on it for each point you failed by. Each time you play a card, increase the cost of that card by 1 and remove 1 resource from Torturous Chords. If Torturous Chords has no resources, discard it. Well, we're down 3, so I'll go ahead and get a resource token ready for it. One of the fancy ones from Orbits. The only question is, how many am I putting on it? Let's find out. We're putting 4 on it. So there's the 3. That's one of the fancy tokens from Orbits. And there we are, 4. Alright, so the next 4 cards Monty plays are +1 resource cost. That will do it for the Mythos Phase. Coming out of the Mythos Phase, we'll spend Monty's last 2 clues to automatically evade the Organist once again. We're going to have him start to drop the hammer on us, but there's nothing we can do there. Okay, that will do it for the Mythos Phase. Now into the Investigation Phase, and Monty will start with a Pathfinder that'll take us over to the map. Pathfinder brings us down to Montmartre, where we'll make friends with a stealth Bayaki. Unfortunately, that is part of the plan. Action 1, we'll try to evade the stealth Bayaki. So we're up 2, and Monty has exactly 0 agility icons he can commit. So up 2. A 0 evades the Bayaki, so very nicely done. Action 2, he'll pay 2 resources. Oh no, actually, we'll pay 3 resources and play lockpicks. So as an action, you can exhaust the lockpicks and investigate plus agility. If you don't succeed by at least 2, discard lockpicks. So action 3, we will run that back. We will run that out. So we're at... So that puts us up to 10 to 2, so we're up 8. Bless brings us up 10. Oh, wait. Okay, so actually, I forgot about the torturous chords. The lockpicks should have cost 4, but anyway, we're up 10 and we're drawing again. -1, so the Bless token stays out, and we get one of the clues. And then that will do it for Monty. We'll stay right here at the map with Lily. Action 1 will bring her down to Montmartre. Action 2 will try to stab the stealthy Bayaki with the... That's right, she did have to take a test anyway, so yeah. Might as well just use the butterfly swords here. So we're at 5 to 3. She's up 2. Is there anything I want to commit to this? I will kick in the Blessed Blade to put her up 3. Elder Sign, which is actually a -5 because we have not used Wheel of Fortune yet, so we do fail that. Action 1 is to move down. Action 2 is to attack. Action 3, we'll run that back. So once again, using the butterfly sword. Still up 2. -1 puts a damage on the stealthy Bayaki. And I was hoping to be able to do this last action, but we will go ahead and exhaust the butterfly swords to try to take the Bayaki out. A 0 takes out the Bayaki. So nicely done there, Lily. That will do it for the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the Organist is still exhausted. So we'll go ahead and start re-readying everything. Yep. And then we'll move back up top for the Upkeep phase. We're back up top for the Mythos phase. Lily will gain 1 resource and go to 8. Monty will gain 1 resource and go to 3. Go to 3, not 1. Lily will draw. Overpower. Very welcome for a combat test. 2 lore on commit. If this test is successful, draw 1 card. Monty will draw. Buried Secrets. Oh, great. Revelation, put Buried Secrets into play next in your threat area. If your location can be investigated, and it can be, you can't move except by scenario card effects. As an action, investigate. If you succeed, instead of discovering clues, discard Buried Secrets. If you fail, you may take 2 horror to shuffle it into your deck instead. Except we can't take the horror on that, so we will need to get rid of that el pronto, basically. But anyway, Mythos Phase. Doom goes up to 3 on the agenda. Lily draws. Spires of Carcosa. Revelation, attach to your location, then place 2 Doom on that location. If there's no Doom on attached location, discard Spires of Carcosa. As an action, investigate. If you succeed, instead of discovering clues here, remove 1 Doom from attached location. So the way that's definitely going to affect us. So right now, if that had been up during the Mythos Phase, we'd be at effective Doom of 1 to advance the agenda instead of 3. But anyway, Monty draws. Marked by the sign, peril. Uh-oh, so Lily can't help with this either. Revelation, test will 2. If you fail, take 2 horror. If the man in the pallid mask is in play, horror dealt by this effect is considered direct, and this test is +2 difficulty. Oh joy, so fortunately the man in the pallid mask is not in play, and the best Monty can do is get to even. Rune probably is going to help wash everything out here. -3. Cancel the effects and icons of each skill card committed to this test. So, right. Which means Monty actually does get defeated by Sanity here, which will bring him up to 2 mental trauma. But more importantly, that will probably, I suspect that will be the end of the winter campaign. So that'll bring Monty up to a total of 3 trauma, which means we'll slam into his house rule once. We'll slam into the house rule for Monty, to say nothing of already having been slamming into it for Lily. But speaking of Lily, we'll see how long we'll see if we can prolong this. That is a shroud of 2. She's investigating even. Well, we might as well try it. So, yeah, Lily's turn will take us over to the map. The scenario has basically gone bonkers on us. So, action 1, we'll try to investigate using Spires of Carcosa. So that's Lily's even, and we'll commit... Actually, yeah, we'll commit Eye of Chaos to this to bring her to even. Actually, that brings her up 1. Because I can't be first grade math. -1 gives me a Doom off of Spires of Carcosa. Action 2. We'll spend 3 resources to play Tetsuo Mori, who we showed earlier. And I'm back at our play area as I'm doing this. Then action 3, we'll go ahead and... I wonder if I move, or... He's going to come after us twice anyway. So... Yeah, I think... Yeah, I think we just investigate again. Try to get that Doom off. I'm even. Before I go into the test, I will commit... No, we'll just investigate it even. -2 says no way. Alright, so that will do it for Lily in the investigation phase. Enemy phase, the organist comes in, makes friends with Lily, and then deals 3 horror, 2 of which will go on Tetsuo, and Lily has to take the last one. So, do we have an item in the discard pile I want to bring back? Probably not. So I'm not searching for an item yet, I'm just seeing what I have. No. I think we'll just go into the deck. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Alright, so card 1. Drawn to the Flame, which I can't take because that's an event. Card 2. Daring, which I would love to be able to take, but I can't. Card 3. Another Daring, see previous Daring. Card 4. Lost Soul, thankfully I'm shuffling that away. Card 5. Dark Pact, which I'm also shuffling away. Card 6. Ward of Protection. Card 7. Sixth Sense, which I also can't take. Card 8. Butterfly Swords, which will probably be the only card she can take. And card 9. Rite of Seeking. Yep, we can only take the second copy of Butterfly Swords. Alright, we'll give that a cut. And then we'll start resetting everything for the next round. So now we've got the action tokens, we'll move back up top for the upkeep phase. By up top, I mean we'll hover over Lily's play area, since she's the only present investigator right now in the scenario. She will gain a resource and go to 6, and then Lily will draw. Another Overpower, which we're probably going to need. But anyway, that will do it for the Upkeep phase. Mythos phase, Doom on the agenda goes up to 4, but we're at 3 Doom effectively to advance because of Spires of Carcosa. And then Lily draws. Torturous Chords. Same thing Monty had earlier. She's testing Will 5. If you fail, put Torturous Chords into play in your threat area with 1 resource per point you fail by. Each time you play a card, increase the cost of that card by 1 and remove 1 resource from it. If it has no resources, discard it. Well, I don't think we really care right now, so we're down 1. Rune is -3, cancel everything, so that brings Lily down to a skill value of 2 because of the Hierophant. So we put 3 resources on it. And hey, look at that, those tokens from orbits flip into 3s. So anyway, that was a very short Mythos phase. Unfortunately, Monty's clue did get dropped on Montmartre. And then Lily will transition into a new investigation phase where we'll stay right here. The situation here is pretty simple. If we don't evade this organist, the scenario and the winter campaign are both over. So for action 1, we'll evade committing Ward of Protection to the test to go up 1. Skull is minus... Holy... That's a -5 because it's the Doom in play, so we fail that. Action 2. We'll commit her other copy of Butterfly Swords and go up 1 on an evade. We get Tentacle touched. Action 3, we'll run the evade back. This time we're at even. -1 effectively ends the scenario and the winter campaign, because Lily in the enemy phase will now take 3 horror from our resident organist, which will defeat her by a mental trauma, by sanity once again. And then we'll move back up top to wrap the scenario up. Alright, we're back up top to wrap the scenario up. So at this point, for the purposes of our quirk, the scenario is over, which means we'll take no more horror from speaking Haster's name. So with that, let's head into the scenario resolution, and we have no resolution was reached because each investigator was defeated.
If no resolution was reached, each investigator resigned or was defeated. You lose track of yourself within the city as you flee for your life. Your feet move of their own accord. The beating of sinewy wings and screeching of creatures above you spurs you onward. Soon you find yourself running down a narrow avenue, passing a set of heavy iron gates. You are in a dead end, a court with tall, old houses on either side. You turn back toward the entrance to find the shapes of many winged creatures barring your path. They are perched on the gates and on the balconies above, awaiting your doom. Walking with cold, sinister confidence, the man in black opens the iron gate and enters the court. His face gleams in the darkness. His eyes pierce your soul. For a moment, you recognize him for what he truly is. It is the last you remember of that night. Record in your campaign log that you did not escape the gaze of the Phantom.
Which I've done that.
Remove all Cultist, Rune, and Elder Thing tokens from the chaos bag. Then add 2 Elder Thing tokens to the chaos bag. If Jordan Perry, an imposing presence, is in the victory display, record his name in your campaign log under VIP's slain. Each investigator earns experience equal to the victory X value of each card in the victory display.
Which would be 2 experience, but that's not going to matter because we also sustained a bunch more trauma. We came out of setup with another mental trauma each. And then since they both took another mental trauma, that brings Monty up to 1 physical and 2 mental, and Lily up to 3 physical and 2 mental. So we are going to invoke the house rule here and wrap the winter campaign. So later this week, we'll wrap the winter campaign, and then next week we'll shift away from the Cthulhu Mythos as we revisit another game on the channel. We'll play Anne's End, and during that game I'll have slight spoilers for Anne's End Legacy. So if you're planning to play through that campaign, I will have light spoilers in that video. Nothing plot related though. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.